ードのジョー・エリオットです。皆さんご存知の通り、モトリー・クルーとデフレパードのカップリングの日本公演が噂されてて、この放送をしている時にまだ発表されてないかどうか細かいディテールねわからないんですけども、そのデフレパードがコロナ禍で時間が3年間くらいあったということで、このオーケストラとのアルバムを作ったんですが、大体は既存の曲にオーケストラをかぶせることが多いんですよ。それじゃつまんないってことで、オリジナルマスターテープから音を抜き出したり、あるいは足したりしながら今までになかった共演アルバムを作ったんですよ。あれはもう完全に女性シンガーとジョー・エリオットのコラボでレコーディングした曲だってあるんですよ。今日はですね、ジョー・エリオットの長い話なんですけど、これがねイントロダクションなんですよ。まだこちらをご覧ください。
No, the offer didn't come directly from the orchestra. The offer came from Decca Records, which is a subsidiary of Universal, which is the label that we are heavily associated with these days, let's say. You know, things have changed since we first signed to Universal back in 1979. We signed for a 6-album deal, which kind of got extended. And then we were freelance from 2008, where we weren't with any record company at all. And then in 2018, when we signed the digital deal, we were back on, back in business with Universal for the back catalogue. So when it came to making a new album, they obviously were very interested in keeping the relationship going. So that's why we signed with them again for a one-off album for Diamond Star Halos. That relationship has maintained a very positive, in a very positive way. So when this got discussed a couple of years ago, we just said, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea. But there's a side to Universal that deals in this kind of music. There's orchestral albums, not necessarily with the Royal Philharmonic, but with similar orchestras for like Elvis albums. There was an Elvis album, Queen have done this, the Beach Boys, and so when the idea was mooted to us, I can't say that it was something that was on my bucket list for a long time. Oh, I really wanted to do this. Like the Yeah album in 2006, the covers record. I always wanted to do one of those ever since I first heard Pin-Ups by David Bowie. But this, once it was suggested, made a lot of sense. And it's like, this is a really interesting opportunity for us to revisit the past in a different way, not just rehashing hits or doing them unplugged, which has been done and done and done. We wanted to do it with the orchestra once the suggestion was made, much more than in any other format. So it basically came via the label, but it has been discussed with us in the management for the last two and a half years. It was just a case of when we got the opportunity to do it. And because of COVID, and because of the pandemic, we've been offered this opportunity. I was going to say it put us into a position where we had no choice, but which is what the pandemic did. But what it enabled us to do initially in 2020, when we had to postpone the tour, was make the new record, an attempt to make it remotely, which is what we did. Then, while we're still in a sort of lockdown in 2022. I mean, we knew that the world was opening up, but we still had some time before the tour. We'd already been working on our side of this classical record since 2021. So we wanted to be ahead of the game. So it was like, it's a long-winded answer, but it was a meeting of two different styles of music that was suggested by the label that we jumped head first into, because it just sounded so exciting, the idea of being in Abbey Road Studios, the famous Abbey Road. We all know what Abbey Road's famous for. Working with this orchestra that was going to be brand new recordings onto some music of ours that's been around since as far back as 1981, but we revisited and reimagined a lot of the work on these records. So we stripped a lot of stuff away. We did some new recording on some of the songs. We completely redid Pour Some Sugar on Me in a totally different style. because the original bombastic way just didn't work. And another reason why we didn't do Photograph or Rock of Ages on this album is because they just didn't sound right with an orchestra. So we chose songs that we knew or we thought would work, and that included a lot of what you might call deep tracks. You know, so it's not just Love Bites and Hysteria and you know, things like that. It was things like Turn to Dust off the Slang album, or Paper Sun from Euphoria, Love from Sparkle Lounge, Kings of the World from the Mirrorball album. You know, these aren't just the Hysteria album with strings stuck on top. That's the one thing that we did not want to do. Just paper or paste like icing on a cake, strings over the top of a record. We took the multi-tracks, we brought them right back to the basics. We took drums away, we took guitars away, so that the orchestra could shine through. So, like on a song like Too Late for Love, the guitar intro has completely been replaced by like a cello, completely, and I totally re-sang it because the vocals from 1982 when I sang them were too bombastic. So I needed singing as though I was singing it with an orchestra, not putting an orchestra on top of my original vocal. It didn't sound right. So we made adjustments all the way through this record to make it work with the orchestra. Most of that was either changing original parts or removing them altogether.